Welcome to Discover Indie Film. I'm Jeff Howard, and I'm very pleased to have Kevin Lee with me on Zoom. Hey, Kevin.
Hello. Thank you so much for having me.
Hey, thank you for being here. So let me do Kevin's introduction. Kevin wrote and directed the film Alley, and Alley was at the Sherman Oaks Film Festival in 2024, took home the Programmer's Prize for Exceptional Filmmaking, and it is actually no joke. I mean, I say this too often on the podcast, but I do have a 17-year-old who only watches horror, and we love when you mix horror with comedy and other elements. And technically, well, actually, you check the boxes for horror and comedy actually when you submitted Alley. So you certainly don't mind my saying it's comedic with horror elements.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
It's also, honestly, the comedy of it is rom-com.
That's right.
And how often do you get a rom-com horror movie? Like, not often enough.
Yeah, not often enough. Before I tell people what the film's about, I always lead with, it is a horror rom-com. And just that description alone, like, I get reactions from people who feel like, wow, that feels completely new. And it's like, really? Okay, all right.
It is. And I mean, it was great. It was great to have you at the festival. It was great. I think my recollection of that evening was we had a nice packed house and just a great block of films that yours was in. And man, that was a fun time. And you know, I just really liked the film. I like what you did with it. And
yeah.
I assume, are you still on the festival circuit or are you nearing the end?
Well, there are still festivals that I'm waiting to hear back from. At the moment, I don't know where it's playing next. So it's at that lull period. I'm waiting to hear back from some, see where it goes.
Gotcha. But because you're waiting on other festivals, the leading question was to find out if it's online yet. Definitely not online. People listening to this can't watch it yet. I leave it to you, sir, if you want us to discuss spoilers or not.
I think I'm open to it. Like, we can discuss the film a little bit first, and then if you want to go into spoiler territory, we just give a heads up to the listeners. Like, all right, from here on out, spoilers.
Yeah, I mean, look, if this is me, like, I guess this is like a very weak flex, but I've seen your film a bunch of times because
oh wow,
I watch stuff as a member of the selection jury, and then if it's really good, I show it to my wife. If it's a good horror film, I show it to our daughter because, as I pointed out, 17 and will only watch horror, and then I see it again at the festival if I'm lucky. In this case, we were on 2 screens at once in December for Sherman Oaks. But I was in the theater, so I got to see your film several times on my TV, and then I got to see it on a 70-foot DCP screen with perfect sound, which is always
awesome.
Is not a bad time.
That's awesome. It's always a unique experience to see the film in an actual theatrical presentation, especially for me because I also edited the film. So I've seen it like a gajillion times on my laptop. You know?
Exactly, yeah, laptop size. Isn't it really wonderful to see it in a theater, not just for the size of the screen and the quality of the sound of everything, but just for that communal experience too of having people around you, and like, although it is really nice to see it so big and see it hold up too, I bet. Like,
yeah, the communal experience was definitely like a game changer for me. You know, like when you're writing your story from the script stage, and then even figuring out like what is it that you want on set, you're thinking about the little things like scene beats and dramatic beats. Where me as a director, I feel like I want this scene to have a moment here because I feel like this moment gives the audience a breather, or I feel like this moment I think will give the audience a chance to laugh a little bit. But it's hard to know whether it's truly working when you're editing it because you get no reaction at all, right? So it's always a challenge to find the pacing and the momentum and how do I keep it organic and not contrived in any sort of way. So seeing on a big screen, of course, on a screen that big with sound that immersive, like, yeah, absolutely, that's a difference. But for me, the real difference was getting that immediate feedback from a crowd, especially a crowd that big that night at Sherman Oaks. It was really like, it was relief, honestly, to know that there are moments in the film that I thought would be important back then, and finally seeing them pay off here.
Yeah, that probably one of the better feelings in the world, because especially, I mean, everyone should know this. I'm not a genius for saying it. Comedy is all about timing.
Yeah.
And when you are editing comedy, the funniest thing is everyone, the Oscar for best editing never goes to a comedy, right? But
Except this time.
oh, this time I didn't follow it, but you know, they always give it to like some sweeping epic drama or something, and it's like,
Yeah.
you can.
Some
I
sort of
have seen so
technical
many
achievement.
comedies killed in the editing room because the timing has to be as good as a comedian's timing. So proud, and so yeah, so actually getting all the comic beats right on your laptop is one thing, but then having everything land on the, yeah, very. I'm sure. I'm so glad you had a good experience. Actually, I do notice in my notes, I think we were your LA premiere. That's kind of
It
fun.
was, yes. It was the LA premiere.
Excellent. I know. Look, all that means is the timing worked for us. It's not like you were sitting around going, I'm going to hold my film back until Sherman Oaks. No, it was just good timing for us.
Good timing, yes.
And so anyhow, this podcast will be about Allie, but it's also more about you, because you might know, or you might have said and seen in the notes when you were invited onto this podcast, is that, you know, I run 2 film festivals, care a lot about this stuff. I normally say shit. We're allowed to curse. And, you know, people making independent films, independent shorts, whatever length, you know, it's got to be a passion project at this stage, right? It's, although I bet Allie is, I think I recall, like, Allie is proof of concept of a bigger idea, probably.
I mean, when I first made it, it was when I first wrote it, it was a short at first. It was just more of once I started the process of actually making it and working with my actors, and we start to discuss character and discuss backstory. Then more things fill into my head about what are these characters' lives like prior to the events of the film. What will be like when they keep going, when they continue after the film, right? And then the ideas sort of just build, and it sort of becomes, okay, I think I have an idea for a feature now. But the way Allie started was as a short film.
Right. You wrote. All right. So I was trying to get to the point where I share that what I really want to know is your story and how you got into film, and what led you down this rewarding and sometimes very frustrating path of being an independent creative artist in a society where we barely support the arts. So I mean, hey, here's me trying to support the arts. So Kevin, were you a creative kid? When did you first get into film? Were you and where'd you grow up?
Yeah, so I grew up in California most of my entire life in the Bay Area, and it's funny because whenever you meet other filmmakers, like, you always like talk to them about like what got you into this, where did you discover your passion for film. I feel like for me, film was the first thing I've ever fallen in love with. It was like, even as a kid, it was like the thing that just captivated me. And so as a kid, I watched like all kinds of movies. They just took me to places that I've never been physically and I've never been emotionally. So I think like growing up, I was always a creative. I was always like in my own little bubble world of imagining characters and scenarios and just playing out my favorite moments in my favorite movies in my head over and over again. So I think
So you were a fan of movies, but you were the kind of kid who also was creatively thinking about stuff too. Like it inspired you to be creative. It wasn't just passive viewing.
Yeah, it definitely inspired me to be creative. So it then led to many different forms. So like elementary, middle school, high school, I drew a lot. And then middle school was when I started like writing short stories, just like writing ideas down, you know. And then when I went to high school, I was really lucky for my high school to have a media arts program to teach some basics of filmmaking. And that's when I had the opportunity to like get a camera and just point it at whatever I want and shoot and make whatever kind of small stories that I wanted to make. And at that time, I felt like I wanted to be a director. Then when I went to college, I sort of like pivoted a little bit and stepped into the world of film criticism, where I felt like it was really important to convey my feelings about films and like what is it about them that I really love? When do they work for me? When do they not work for me? And it sort of opened another world of what film is like as an industry. And so I felt like, okay, if I really wanted to step into this, like I need some like training. I need to like learn what is it really like to make a film in this industry. And so that inspired me to then pursue grad school to learn how to be a producer. And that was when I moved to New York City and I lived there for 3 years. And during my time there, that was when I wrote Alley and turned it into a short.
Excellent. All right. Well, I'm going to make you back up because that was a very wonderful, succinct biography. But I got to nag you a little, if you don't mind, and ask.
No worries. Go.
So when you started writing short stories and stuff, did you get to play with cameras like middle school or high school? Did you ever get to do that kind of thing, or that waited till university?
High school, I did. I was able to get my camera and just make something. There was like a passion project they did in my senior year of high school where my best friend and I, as a crew of 2, just over the course of months, just did straight up guerrilla filmmaking and made a movie out of our efforts, you know. And we even did like like on the ground grassroots type marketing where we even made posters and we like would tape them along the school hallways to get people to come see it once the film is done. And we actually had surprisingly good turnout. So that was a really unique experience that I got to have early in life, as early as high school. And then college, I didn't really film anything anymore. Like I said, going into film criticism, college was a lot of writing for me. It was
I got to ask, well, first you said Bay Area. Mm-hmm. Oddly enough, I have friends who are high school teachers in the Bay Area, and I almost want to ask what school, but...
I guess it was school. I went to Saratoga High.
Beautiful up there.
Yeah, it's really nice up there. Actually, fun fact, same high school that Steven Spielberg went to. And he also hated it.
Excellent. Yeah, I can imagine it's a beautiful place to visit, but it's not like you want to be a teenager
especially that school. So like it's a really nice neighborhood. That school though looks like a prison.
Nice. Okay, so high school is prison, but you got a good turnout. And then so did you choose a university with like a film major, but it sounds like it was like more of a film studies thing, like film criticism.
It was more of a film studies thing. And so I went to UT in Austin, Texas. And
that was a great school for
great
film.
School. Yeah, great school. Hook 'em. I went there and I ended up studying English, and I used a lot of my free time to just go out and watch the new movies that are coming out every single year and write about them. And so for like 4 to 5 years, I had like a personal blog website that just stored like all the reviews that I wrote personally, just for my own personal benefit. Yeah.
That's very cool. So actually you were also showing some organizational skills there, I think. So in Texas at UT, I know, it's known for, right, Rodriguez and people like that and Linklater. But
Rodriguez, Matthew McConaughey. Richard Linklater's from there too.
Yeah. So were you tempted to to hang out with the film people there, or were you kind of
Yeah, it
like,
was
did
like
you
this
PA and
interesting.
stuff for
It
like
was this
student film?
interesting dance between doing what I was interested in and also being open minded enough to see what else came my way. I sort of viewed college as like a chance for me to figure out who I am and what I wanted to do, and I felt like Austin was like the perfect place to figure that out. Because I think the people at Austin are some of the most open minded people ever. Um, and so I kept my passion for film, but not filmmaking during that time. I did it through writing about film. Um, and I just sort of gave myself like, just enjoy the college life and see where it leads you. If it ends up leading you back to film once you're done, sure. And that's what ended up happening. It then led me into wanting to go to grad school to learn producing.
Right. So, and then I apologize. Did you say where you went to grad school yet?
Yeah, I went to Columbia University
That's right.
in
You said
Upper
it.
Manhattan.
That came up in your Q&A because I
Yeah, I think
kicked.
somebody asked where it was.
So, well, actually, somebody assumed you went to like that other Columbia, and I turned in. I don't know if you remember this moment, but I knew what you were talking about when you said Columbia, and what can I say? I was proud of you because I tend
Thank you.
to because I come from that kind of family, so I turned into proud uncle moment and went, no, we're talking Ivy League motherfuckers. You know what I mean? I don't think I said Ivy League motherfucker, but I said something like that because I was like, dude, this dude went to the real Columbia. Not that the other one's bad. I think there's a really nice one, a small college in Chicago or something called Columbia also.
Something like that.
But
It
when
was it
people
was
talk about that Columbia, I don't know. I'm an education snob. My bad.
it was really interesting because there's if you're ever the type of aspiring filmmaker who wants to go into grad school, there are different kinds of grad school programs, and they could provide very different things for you depending on what is it in film that you want to do, right? So like I would say the Columbia program that they have is super different from if say you pursue a grad school program at USC or NYU. Those programs are very heavy in working with state of the art equipment and working on set and things like that. The program at Columbia, they specialize in storytelling. So it's very like the classes are very intimate. They're not big at all. And the professors spend a lot of time talking with you and how do you perfect your script. And it's like every single course that you take, there's some level of some layer of storytelling that we're covering. And I thought that was a very unique, intimate take on how to approach filmmaking. And I felt like having it be in New York City, which is one of the core places for indie filmmaking, I felt like that was such a great opportunity to like grab that, you know?
Absolutely, and sounds like you did your research too, because yeah, there's schools that are all about the practical. There's film
Yeah.
schools that are a mix. There's film schools. It's very funny because I used to always go to here in LA. There's several prominent film schools, and I used to go. I haven't gone for years, but they would have a night at the DGA theater where they would show like one film from SC, one film from UCLA, one film from Loyola Marymount,
Mm-hmm.
one film from AFI, and I
Yep.
think maybe even one from Cal State Northridge. I'm not sure. And
Mm-hmm.
like every year, you you could tell which film was from which school
Yeah. Yeah.
because yeah,
Yes,
they just there's a vibe.
there is.
And I like the vibe that you said Columbia had because actually I think that's kind of the Loyola Marymount UCLA films were always story focused, and
Mm-hmm.
needless to say USC was production value focused. Like,
Mm-hmm.
hey, it would have been nice to have a story, but boy, what a battlefield!
Right. And like I think the vibe that you're talking about is very unique and quickly identifiable, especially in shorts, because with a short film you have such limited time to not just tell your story, to convey any information to the audience. You have such limited time. And I think when it comes to shorts, I think you can easily identify what they were prioritizing when they were making it. It maybe it's it's a little harder. I mean, feature films, you can pick that up too occasionally, but I think it's so obvious in a short.
Yeah. So when you're in a program like Columbia's graduate program, are you, so you're, it's obviously a very bookish program, but then are you and your classmates like shooting stuff with on your own, like on the weekends or and stuff, because that's
Yeah.
also an interest?
Yeah, we basically actually are given a ton of exercises to do. It's like grad school type of homework where you take your phone or you go to their rental house and you rent out a camera. You shoot all different kinds of exercises, and you basically use that to practice so that when it's time to do your actual short, you're more experienced and more ready on like, all right, I know what works and what doesn't work. I know what I want.
Right. And you said it was a specific producing program, like
Yeah, there are two, technically three, but two branches in the grad school program that you could be in. One is producing, and the other is screenwriting / directing. Everybody takes the same courses in their first year, regardless of what your focus is. But once you get to the second year onwards, then you take strictly the courses that are part of the program that you chose. But for me, who was a producing student, I still got a chance to direct and to write scripts in my first year. And one of the courses would make us like write a bunch of short scripts. I think it was like a total of 4 over the course of a semester. And I specifically gave myself a unique challenge. I told myself, all right, for these 4 scripts, you're going to write 4 different genres. Just as a thing that I told myself, like, do that to see, like, just to find out, like, which genre do I feel most comfortable working in, which genre am I most interested in. And Allie was one of the ones that came out of that 4. And I ended up directing it because I think the class and the professor enjoyed Allie the most. And so
like on the page, they enjoyed
on the page,
script the most. And that was positive. Who doesn't like positive reinforcement?
Yeah. Yeah. It was funny because of the 4 scripts I wrote, Allie was actually the one that I was the most afraid of showing to the class. I think it's because of the intimacy related content in the story that I was really worried whether or not the class would like it and whether the professor would like it. But yeah, they ended up really enjoying it, and that sort of gave me the encouragement to say, actually, you know what? I'm going to direct this one.
Very cool. Very cool. And that was second year, you were saying. So that was
the end of the second half of first year.
Second half of first year. And then and so did you shoot it as part of the first year?
Yeah, it was like the summer right between year 1 becomes year 2.
And was that last summer? Was that 2024?
No, a while back. It was the summer of 2021 was when I shot Allie.
You probably shared this at your Q&A that.
Yeah, it was, I shot it in the summer of 2021, and then I didn't get to finish Allie in the editing room until after I graduated. So that was after 2023 was when I finally got to finish the film and then start the festival circuit for it.
Wow, did that drive you nuts to have it like on the back burner? Or were you so busy with grad school it didn't matter?
Well, it did drive me nuts, but in many different ways. You know, it's about like seeing the different cuts of your film, seeing it a gajillion times on a laptop screen, feeling like because being the writer and the director and the editor, it's so hard footage and not think about hindsight choices. Like, God, I wish I put the camera in a different spot, or God, I wish I had a different take of that, you know. And the other thing is when you put away the project for so long, you come back to it months later, suddenly you have a completely different perspective. Suddenly the take that you liked back then, you don't like it anymore now. You decide to choose a completely different take. So it did drive me nuts. Sometimes it was really hard. Other times, no, it kept me going.
It also probably put you in a position where reshoots were out of the question, huh?
Because, these are all out of the question. Yeah, reshoots are out of the question.
Yeah, because your actors aren't going to look the same. Like, that much later.
Yeah, yeah, out of the question.
Yeah, you got everything you needed. That's great. And then so after graduation, you sat down and you got it done.
Yeah, but finally, yeah, I gave myself a deadline by hiring bringing in a composer and bringing in a sound mixer. I think that's one of the notes I would give to like an aspiring filmmaker. Like once you hire a composer and a sound mixer to lock that in, that's your deadline. You're not changing anything else in the cut once the sound mix is locked in.
Oh yes, you are sharing the mission creep issue, right? Where
Yeah.
if it's just you and your film, if it's you and Adobe Premiere or whatever you're using and a
Yep.
laptop, you could tweak a 12-minute film for 10 years.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. Just forever. It's like no, you got to give yourself a reason to stop, like a hard out.
For sure, for sure. Well, so then were you aware of that when you said, okay, I'm going
Oh
to hire
yeah.
a composer in that, right? So
Yeah.
you were turning the screws on yourself.
Yeah. That was me consciously telling myself, all right, you're giving yourself a deadline for this. And like otherwise you're just going to drive yourself nuts.
Was there another short or two at Columbia besides Alley? Or
I mean,
or
there were other shorts that I've worked on, but Ali is the only one that I wrote and directed.
got you. Yeah, so you had to finish this one.
Yeah, I got it because it's my baby, you know.
Yeah, for sure. All right, so I assume you were happy with it in spite of
Yes, I
you
am.
did
Yeah.
you did share, of course. You're the kind of artist who looks back and goes, if I had done this, if I had done that. But altogether, you got what you were aiming for.
Yeah, it did touch on like certain feelings and emotions that I wanted it to have when I wrote it down on paper. That I was very, very grateful to see that it's coming through on screen. It's very, very magical, you know, because like you get to see the performances and the score and the edit. It just finally comes together and like that's a movie right there, you know.
Exactly. And I think we talked about this at the festival, but I mean, one of the wonderful things you did too is casting.
Mm-hmm.
Like
Yeah, the casting process was quite interesting. Yeah, it was. I just wanted to look for. I just wanted Angela, which was my lead actress. She. I saw another short that she was in, which ended up going to Sundance, and that short was directed by a Columbia alumni who was. I think she was. The director was 2 years above me, and Angela's performance in that short, which was called Doublespeak, by the way, her performance in that film was so riveting to me. It was the kind of performance where so much is done internally, and she does something really unique with her eyes, where you really want to like figure out how she's feeling and whether her character is feeling okay or not. And I remember then going onto her website, watching other shorts that she was in, watching her reels. And some of those reels are pretty similar. They're like these heavy dramas where she gives really internalized performances. And then somehow, I looked at her performance and I suddenly felt, you know, I think from a slightly different angle, she could be potentially funny. And then it just sort of clicked in my mind where I felt like, yeah, I want her to be my vampire. I want her to be my lead. And so I ended up reaching out through that alumni, like, hey, do you have her contact? I would love to, like, I want to cast her in a film that I'm doing. And I basically did like a blind email to her. You know, it was like, hey, I have this short that I'm going to make. I really want you to play this lead. I've attached a script here. Oh, and by the way, this is really different from what you have normally done. So if you have any questions, like, please ask away, because I'm sure you will have a lot.
But I mean, I maybe you didn't have this on your mind, but I would think for an actor, the magic words are, this is not what you normally get offered, right? Like most actors love the chance to do something different.
Yeah, right. I think that was one of the factors that led to Angela agreeing to do it. She read the script and then asked to get on a Zoom call where she basically asked a ton of questions to me and my producer. And it was during that Zoom call, one of the questions she asked was, do you have in mind who you want to play the male lead? And at that time of the call, I did not have a male lead in mind because all I cared about was getting her as the female lead. And one of the priorities that I had in place with my producer about the film is to make sure that both actors feel safe on set, since the film involves a lot of intimacy work. So I knew that we needed like an intimacy coordinator to be there to work with these two actors, but I also needed to make sure that these two actors feel safe. So one of the things that I told Angela about on that call was I asked her, like, actually, do you know any male actor who you would be comfortable doing this kind of thing with? And that was what led me to Max. He was an actor who was already good friends with Angela. They've worked together before. They hang out together. And so it was like one thing led to another. And so that's how the casting went for the two of them. So by the time I got them both, like they were already good friends. They already had that chemistry. They felt much more comfortable and free and open to ask me stuff. So it just made the rehearsal process and the actual filming process on set, it just went so smoothly.
Fantastic. And I have to say, like, I'm not surprised by what you just said, but still, it's like, as someone who watched it so many times without knowing that, like, if you had told me that you knew both of them in advance and you wrote it with them in mind, like, I would believe you. Like honestly, they really are. They are those characters. That's another,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Like he's just like a favorite choice of mine, to be honest. Because I mean, she carries a film. She is fantastic. She's fantastic in every way. But he's fantastic too. And honestly, like, it's very funny. Like in a rom-com, you really do want your audience to fall in love with your leads, right? Like,
Yep.
like we got to be hoping for them, and like you just nail that vibe right off the bat. And now I see it was part of it was your wisdom of being open to Angela pulling someone in.
Yeah. And it was definitely that openness to accept something that I did not plan for in the beginning. In fact, when I first wrote the script, the way I pictured the character of Michael, he looked nothing like Max. The way I pictured that character was more like a Michael Cera or Elijah Wood type of character, or like a Jesse Eisenberg type of character. And I remember when I first got Max's contact from Angela and then going on his website, seeing what he looks like, I was like, oh, this guy is too tall. He's too tall. He's too, like, you know, he doesn't look like what I envisioned my character to look like.
Right. You were thinking like the little nerdy guy, and here's this tall, handsome dude.
Yeah, exactly. But then I got on a Zoom call with Max to get to know him and talk to him. And I realized his real life personality is pretty close to what I wrote. And so I was like, oh, that's why Angela thought of him. I see. This is a perfect fit, you know? So he was exactly the guy I needed.
That's such a great story. That's so great. And I assume they had a lot of fun doing this because, well, by the way, you threw out the word vampire already.
I did.
You did. So I feel free to use it now. But I mean,
yes.
you know, two friends who are actors, they're not going to get to play a scene like this that often. You know what I mean? Like, I won't give away what happens. I don't feel like giving it away unless you want to. That's up to you. But but like, that must have been so much fun for them because.
Yeah, it was fun during rehearsal. It was fun on set. Nearly every time I say cut, they start laughing. You know, yeah.
Yeah, because it's really a very funny situation. And there you go. The comedy worked. It's funny because Everyone debates the word horror now, right? Like, is it
Oh yeah.
really horror? But of course it's horror. Someone might have died.
Yes, yes, someone might have died. Yeah, and
And maybe someone does. I don't know.
there's horror tropes in there for sure. I definitely play with horror tropes in there. Um, it's just I don't want it to tonally feel like horror.
And I hope you take this as incredibly high praise because it's meant that way. But the vampire mythos has been beaten to death by the film
Yeah.
industry. And I'm pretty sure you did something that no one's done before with it. You know what I mean? Like
Oh, thank
I
you.
don't recall any scene in any vampire TV series and or movie with like these moments.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Right? Isn't that's like huge?
Yeah, it's interesting because like I've always felt like as a storyteller, like as a writer, I love playing with genre, whether it's horror or sci-fi or fantasy. But I noticed about myself that I never dive straight into the lore of it all. So like if I were a fantasy writer, like I don't dive in like Lord of the Rings or Harry Potter, even though I love those films, I love those stories. I noticed that as a writer, I tend to use just one or two components from that genre and use it to elevate the comedy or the drama story that I want to tell. Because I feel like in certain ways, a vampire component or any other component helps us make sense of this emotion that the characters are going through, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
I think genre at the right times, it helps us process real human complexities.
Yeah. And I mean, that is actually I think that is something that's been done more with vampire characters more recently. I think vampires do get to be more human, but Allie, your Allie character, that's a person. Like they
Yeah.
may be a vampire, but they're a person too.
Yeah.
With the needs of a human being, which totally
Yeah.
checks out, right? It makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah. When I wrote the story and the more I thought about it, the more Allie became a real human being to me in my mind. And I had a friend who told me something really interesting. Um, my friend said, they said, even though your film is a comedy, Allie herself is not living in one. And I
Wow,
thought,
that's totally true.
and I thought, yeah, that's absolutely true. And that's what makes this whole situation like really compelling. Like it's funny, but it's also compelling because you've got this vampire character who is really struggling and wrestling with internal things, internal challenges, and that we don't really know about because it's a short film. You ain't got time to dive into that stuff. But then you have this really interesting, weird, but hopefully endearing contrast with Michael, who is like just the exact opposite of what Allie is like as a person. This total dork who just like throws everything in Allie's life off balance, you know. And for just the scope of this short film, I think that off balance, everything being thrown off balance, is where the comedy comes from. But
For sure.
I constantly want to keep the audience to remember that there's still true danger like lurking right there. It's just I'm not showing that part yet, you know.
Yeah, and your friend's insight was so wonderful because yeah, he's in a date movie
Yeah.
and she's in a serious drama.
Yeah.
Like in a way,
really
like her character is experiencing drama. Like it's for her, she's not even experiencing horror. She's experiencing a really tense, dramatic moment in her life because, you know, because falling in love can be kind of scary.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And
it really shows through even the films that I asked them to watch. The movies that Angela got are the complete opposite of the movies that Max got. You know?
Well, you want to share it? You want to share some?
Oh yeah. So Angela got movies like Let the Right One In, this classic Swedish horror film. It's one of my all-time favorites. I also asked her to watch Raw, this 2016 French horror movie that's like body horror related, but it's also the horror elements like a metaphor for something else that the protagonist is going through. For Max, I asked him to watch like Friends episodes. I told him, all right, watch this episode and I want you to pay attention to Chandler here, or watch this episode. I want you to pay attention to Ross.
Right, like one of the episodes where like they were dying to kiss the girl and they didn't know how to.
Yeah, in fact, there's like certain like that that his character does in Ally that is like if you look hard enough, like, oh yeah, Chandler does that in Friends every once in a while, and like, oh yeah, Ross does that every once in a while. It's just now it's different because the scenario that I put him in is a pretty like awkward scenario, but then kind of becomes horrific because he discovers the truth about his date, and that's what still makes it a somewhat new.
Not for nothing, but if somebody said to me they were going to pitch a TV series that was Friends but with a vampire and a werewolf and a this and a that, I'd be like, God, that's going to be a hit.
Yeah.
Get into their daily lives. All right. Well, so after you finish it, happy with it, and then you said you were clued into the festival circuit.
Mm-hmm.
And just hit it?
Yeah, I just started submitting it to places and see who's interested in taking it and who's not interested in taking it. And in the beginning, I was just excited for whichever festival takes it, because like, the festivals that I've been to up until this point are only the big ones. I usually don't go to these small festivals that are dedicated to short films. But it was really eye-opening to see some of these festivals and see that there is a community out there. There are fans who are eager to find any kind of like new voices, right, through these shorts. And so it has been like quite a fun and insightful ride to see where Ally goes, where Ally gets accepted in, and to see the different kinds of responses that I've gotten. Even like after the Q&A, after the film has been shown, every once in a while you would get maybe like one or two audience members who would like walk up and approach you afterwards and tell you a little bit more about what they thought about the film. Even noticing like the types of people who would approach me, I thought was very eye-opening.
I actually have a loaded question from my perspective, because I always hear this a lot. Is I hear this a lot from people who make a non-standard horror film. Mm-hmm. Was Ally embraced by horror-focused festivals or a little less so? So far it has not, and that's interesting.
And that has been quite a challenge actually, because when you have a limited budget to submit a film to festivals, you got to pick and choose where you think the film would have its best shot. And I'm of the belief that I think it would do better if it goes under comedy than if it goes under horror. But that's just me. That's where my head's at right now.
Yeah, but you would think. All right, so now I'm obviously Sherman Oaks Film Festival and Film Invasion LA. We show all genres and we love to mix them up in a block together, and we think that's the way film should be treated. Mm-hmm. So I'm the kind of goofball who thinks, if I ran a horror festival, I'd be dying to play Ally to break it up a little, like, jump scare movie, body horror movie, throw in the horror-rom-com for a great block. But whatever, that's me. All right, so are you writing all the time? Are you what's your next focus? And you finished school. Should I ask what you did after getting your? I assume you got an MFA.
Yeah, it's been quite a challenge to find like consistent work after graduation. I mean, I think it's a timing thing, because I graduated right during the actor and writer strike. but I did get some opportunities to work in development and read some feature scripts and give feedback back to the executives. So that was a really fun experience. And again, I took that time to finish Alley. I felt like that was my best chance for me to like, make a block of time just to do this. As for now, I sort of gave myself a New Year's resolution for this year that you're going to write a screenplay again, because it's been a while since I wrote a story down. So that's sort of the thing that I have in mind for myself. Like, you're going to write a screenplay. And I think right now, based on where my head's at, I think that screenplay is going to be a feature version of Alley.
Makes sense. And I assume that's also from spending a year with it at festivals, getting reactions and.
Yeah, it's getting reactions from it, and seeing, like, again, when you see it with a crowd, you're actually getting that feedback that you don't get when you're making it. And it's very reassuring that in that feedback, you realize that the thing that was meaningful to you when you're telling the story is actually coming through, that it's actually resonating with somebody, right? And so I think getting some of that feedback at these festivals is sort of telling me that some of the thoughts that I have for the feature might actually be good ideas.
That never hurts. Well, and it certainly must be positive. Besides the idea of positive feedback, I'm pretty sure whether it was me or someone in the crowd at your screening at Sherman Oaks that somebody said, "I want to know what happens next." Right? Like people are eager to know what happens after this scene. So
yeah, there were, and not just you, but the audience had good questions, which. I've been to festivals where the audience questions are not great, but the ones at Sherman Oaks, they were crazy good questions. They made me like some of them I never thought about before, and it's like, oh, interesting. Okay, all right. Let me address it this way. Let me address it that way.
I'm so glad to hear that. I think I have no idea. I'd have to watch it again, but we have your Q&A recorded, but I think the cheat code on that is that I don't just throw questions to them first. First, I talk to you and I kind of set a tone, I think.
Yeah,
right. And then everyone realizes I better ask a good one instead of just like, what camera did you use? What was your And it's like,
that was one of the questions that I was dreading when I started the festival circuit. I was like, I swear, if somebody asked me what camera I used.
It's like, well, I mean,
it's like, all right, Panasonic.
Digital.
There, you happy?
Yeah, it is a funny, but I don't mean to make fun of people, but it's so much fun. All right, so this year you're gonna make yourself write the feature version of Alley.
I'm going to make myself do it.
I am tempted to ask about that, but no, you shouldn't talk about it. You should just do it.
Yeah.
And are you tempted? I'm just curious about this. Are you tempted to write it with indie filmmaking in mind, so you can still grab those two actors and do this one like every other weekend for a couple months and just get it done? Like, are you interested in that?
I am interested in it. Honestly, like the dream is to, because I keep going back to these characters. Honestly, it's like, I always tell people, some of my personal favorite films of every year are films where I feel like the characters are real people, where every once in a while, like every other week, my mind suddenly goes, I wonder how they're doing today. And then suddenly, oh wait, they're fictional, but there are some characters that I just think about and be like, are they okay today? And for me, Allie is that kind of character where every once in a while I want to know, like, is she having a rough day today? Did Michael do something to help her mood, or, that kind of thing? And so it's a constant inspiration for me to think like, okay, I should write something bigger because I've had all these kinds of thoughts in my head about where her journey is, where it goes, and what her arc would be, what Michael's arc would be, and what kind of new characters, supporting characters, would be included in there. And slowly, I add new layers onto it. So what started off as this really simple date night becomes like a bigger story, but still about their relationship in the focus.
Sounds excellent. And so for now, that's the focus. I was tempted to ask, like, the other 3 scripts you wrote when you were in school.
Oh, I could make those too one day.
They'll just sort of, or you'll write more because you're growing as a creative. So
yeah, or I would write more. I also did get a chance to write a full-length feature screenplay during my first year. That full-length screenplay I could also see myself making one day, although I would have to go back and tweak certain elements of it. But that one is totally doable as well. That one is like a road trip movie. So it's actually doable.
Well, like you said half an hour ago, you like to take a genre and play with it. The road trip movie is such a classic. Yeah,
it's a road trip movie, but the characters are ghosts. That was my.
There you go. So the Horror-Rom-Com.
Yeah. So if you
ghost, so like road trip.
So like lore wise, right? Like logic wise, if you were on the road and you happen to be lucky enough to spot it, it'll look like a self-driving car.
Yeah. Which is not unusual anymore.
Correct.
I mean, it's unusual, but it's not unheard of. Yeah. That's so funny.
Exactly. It's another one of those my brain would just do, which is take a genre element and in a weird way normalize it, but also like how does that genre component, how does it elevate this human thing that we all feel?
For sure. Excellent.
Yeah.
Was there anything else you want to throw in before we wrap it up?
I think that's good.
That's good. I was I'm going to bother because you mentioned your producer. That's Aurora Real de Asua.
That's right.
Asua. Yeah, because I figure I sometimes say to people, like, do you want to name people that you?
Oh yeah, Aurora was an incredible producer. She was actually my classmate from that screenwriting class. And remember earlier, I was saying that I was really nervous at the time to send my script for Allie to the class and to the professor. Aurora was actually the first person I sent the script to. Like, I sent it to Aurora. I asked her to look at it, and then I asked her opinion. You think the class would like this? You think the professor would be okay with this? And then Aurora was very, very encouraging. She told me, absolutely, I think they would eat this up, So then I submitted it to the class. The class and the professor had a really positive response to it. And when it came time to deciding what short film are you directing, because we all need to find a producer, Aurora sort of like came to me and said, I will produce your short if you choose Allie to be your short. And I was like, okay, done deal.
That's a very producer move, is it not? Like,
yeah.
Like, walk up to a writer director and go, yeah, I'm going to help you, but it's the project I want to do. That's very cool. That's a cool.
Yeah.
And so much cool shit happened around Allie. That's very cool.
Yeah, I had an incredible team. Everyone down to every single crew member that we had, they were all just people who I could truly lean on, because it really is a lot of pressure and anxiety on set, because everyone is coming to you, the director, for questions, and you being the director, you need to like pretend you know the answer all the time, but when you're working with really talented and open-minded people who are so eager to try stuff and like play, man, it's just it takes a lot of that weight off your shoulders, like to feel like that freedom to ask questions, that freedom to ask, like, can we do this? Can we try that? And it just, it's a great environment.
Excellent. All right. We'll leave it at that. Is there social media or a website that people who want to follow you should check out?
Yeah, I would start by saying Ali is available on Letterboxd. So if anyone's listening and you have seen the film, please go on Letterboxd and leave a rating and review. Even if you did not like the film, I want you to leave a rating and review.
Actually, if you want, when we get off, remember to send me an email with a link, a link, so that we can make a clickable link in the show notes right to the Letterboxd thing. Sure,
that'd be awesome. And then for social media, there's an Ali page on Instagram that you can follow. It's ali.shortfilm. So you can keep up to date on any other fests that the film gets into. Those are the two main pages for the film itself. And then there's me. There's my Twitter and my Instagram.
Do you want to share those, or?
Yeah, sure. I am K Lee plus films on Instagram, all one word, and you have to spell out the word plus. So K Lee plus films. And then I am K Lee _ film review on Twitter.
Got it. Oh,
and I promote both my films on those platforms.
Gotcha. I'm sorry, I'm typing it as you're talking. So on
no worries.
on what used to be Twitter,
I still call it Twitter. I will always call it Twitter.
I'm with you. All right, so you're K Lee _?
_ film review.
Film review.
That's for Twitter.
And you probably review films on it.
I do, indeed.
Excellent. Well, talk about a nice segue for the podcast that's going to follow this one in the feed, because the next podcast I'm going to keep you on so that we can have you answer the Discover Indie Film 4 questions, which are favorite films, overrated, underrated, and lesser known. But let me just wrap us up now. Thank you so much, Kevin.
Thank you.
And thank you, everyone, for listening. If you want to like and subscribe, that's really nice. If you want to write a review, that's even nicer. Of the podcast. If you want to learn more about this podcast, just go discoverindiefilm.com. On social media, it's always at DIFwins. That includes Blue Sky, and I only look at Blue Sky now. My podcast producer, Karina handles the social media, and I did this. I'm saying this every fucking episode, but I gave up social media except for Blue Sky, and of course Blue Sky is very quiet, and there's no algorithm pushing shit at you. Within a week of quitting social media, I started reading books again.
Oh, I have so many books to catch up on. That's a good idea.
You know what I mean? Like after 4 or 5 days, I'm in bed with my wife and she's on her phone, and I'm not going to watch a bunch of cute animal videos on Instagram because I'm not looking at Instagram anymore. So I'm like,
no more reels.
I'm like, oh, I got that book on my. So I started reading stuff on Kindle. It was like crazy. So anyway,
idea.
Not that, and then I kind of it feels good. So I actually have to start the third book now. All right, so that's a big tangent, but that was discoverindiefilm.com is the website. Now, we talked about Sherman Oaks Film Festival, so I'm going to mention discoverindiefilm.org. That is the website for the nonprofit called the Discover Indie Film Foundation that runs 2 film festivals, Sherman Oaks Film Festival in December, Film Invasion Los Angeles in June. If you want to learn more about Sherman Oaks Film Festival, including the fact that we are having our 10th anniversary this year, go to ShermanOaksFF.com, and it's at ShermanOaksFF on social media. We got some cool shit for the 10th. And it's also the 10th anniversary for Film Invasion Los Angeles. So you learn about that one at FilmInvasionLA.com, and it's at FilmInvasionLA on social media. And a very cool team that was at Sherman Oaks Film Festival with you was from Lima, Peru. And they sat there at Sherman Oaks and said, man, we wish we had this down in Lima. And I said, well, I've known it was their second time at our festival. And I was like, well, I trust you. We've had false starts with film invasions in other cities, like over the last 9 years. I'm like, if you want to do Film Invasion Lima, I will mentor you. I've got your back, and it's going to happen. January 2026. I got to fly to Lima, Peru for Film Invasion.
Wow.
That's groovy.
That's awesome.
I'm really stoked. And needless to say, The cost of renting a theater in Lima, Peru is a little less than Los Angeles, California. Go figure. I'm looking at the math and I'm going, ooh, maybe I should move. But anyway, all right. So
Why didn't I do this sooner?
I know. All right. Kevin, thanks so much.
Thank you.
And thank you everyone for listening.